It was a quiet summer morning when 13-year-old Wyatt Fletcher went outside to check on his family's cattle. Their farm was in the middle of nowhere. Wide fields, thick trees, and a dry gully that no one ever looked twice at. But that day, something caught Wyatt's eye. A piece of old, muddy fabric sticking out of the dirt. When he pulled at it, he felt something solid underneath. What he uncovered would shock not just his town, but the entire country. Hidden in the gully was a secret no one was supposed to find. It traced back to a woman who had vanished 8 years earlier. A woman on a top-secret DEA mission. She had simply disappeared one night. No calls, no evidence, no goodbye. Until now, Lena Morales wasn't just any DEA agent. She was the best. Smart, fearless, and sharp. The kind of agent others looked up to. She didn't talk much, but when she did, people listened. She didn't play games. She followed leads until the very end. By the time she turned 34, she had already taken down 3 drug networks. Not from behind a desk, from the inside. Lena went undercover for real. She changed her name, her clothes, her life. She even moved to small towns where no one knew her face. In 2016, the DEA sent her into rural Tennessee. Her mission? Get close to a drug ring that was moving narcotics through farms and back roads. Her job was to blend in, earn trust, and report back. And she did. For over a year, Lena sent intel that helped bust dealers track shipments and map out the group's structure. But as her reports got more detailed, so did the danger. Someone inside that group was watching her closely. And one night, all contact stopped. That was the night Lena Morales disappeared. It was July 18, 2017. Around 8:30 p.m., Lena made a short call to her DEA handler. She was sitting alone at a roadside diner, sipping a cup of coffee. She sounded tired, but calm. She told him she had a new lead. Someone inside the cartel wanted to meet. They claimed to have proof that local cops were helping move the drugs. Lena was supposed to meet them in an hour. Her handler said, "You sure it's safe?" Lena gave a small laugh. "Nothing ever is." Then she paused and said, "I'll call you after the meeting." That was the last thing she ever said. The next morning, she didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't check in. Her phone went straight to voicemail. No one at the diner remembered seeing her leave. The cameras out front had been broken for weeks. And just like that, Lena Morales was gone. The next morning, a gas station employee called the sheriff's office. A black sedan had been parked near the dumpsters all night. When deputies arrived, they ran the plates. The car was registered to a federal agency. The DEA was alerted. Agents showed up fast. Inside the car, they found Lena's phone powered off. Her purse was still there. So were her fake IDs. Nothing looked stolen. No blood, no signs of a fight. Surveillance cameras at the gas station didn't help. One pointed toward the parking lot, but the footage had been overwritten. It was like she had just stepped out and vanished. One witness said they remembered seeing a woman, matching Lena's description, standing near the car just before sunset. Then she walked behind the station. That was it. After that, nothing. No one saw her get into another car. No one heard a scream. No one saw anything suspicious. She was just gone. That same day, agents went to check Lena's apartment. It was a small place, hidden above an old bookstore. The door was locked. Nothing looked broken. Inside, everything was neat. Dishes were still in the sink. Her bed was made. Her jacket was hanging by the door. Her keys were on the counter. Her laptop was shut. Her backup phone was charging. There were no packed bags. No missing clothes. It didn't look like she had run. It didn't look like anyone had broken in. But one thing felt strange. Lena always kept a red notebook. She used it to jot down names, routes, anything she couldn't risk sending over the phone. That notebook? Gone. Agents searched every inch. No notes. No maps. The drawers were organized. Her closet untouched. No sign of panic. No sign of planning. It was like Lena had just stepped out to get coffee and never came back. At that point, the D feared the worst, but they had no idea how far this case would go. After sweeping Lena's car and apartment, the D held a DL, closed-door meeting. Top agents, supervisors, and her handler were all called in. The mood was grim. They went over every detail. The phone call, the diner, the car, the missing notebook. The facts didn't add up, but one theory kept rising to the surface. Someone had figured her out. They believed Lena had been made. Someone inside the drug ring must have realized she wasn't who she said she was. And if that happened, there were only two outcomes. She'd run, or she'd be silenced. But she hadn't run. There were no flights, no bus tickets, no cash withdrawals, no calls to family. She just vanished. So they assumed the worst. There was no press release, no public alert. The D didn't want to expose the mission or admit they'd lost an agent. They decided not to send in a rescue team. Too risky. Too late. Internally, they changed her status from active undercover to missing, presumed dead. Just like that, Lena Morales, one of the best agents they ever had, was gone from the system. No funeral. No body. No answers. Just a quiet silence. But there was one person who refused to accept that silence. Lena's mother, Teresa Morales, didn't care about D protocol. She wanted her daughter back. When the agency finally called her, they kept it short. Lena's gone. We believe she was killed in the field. That was it. No explanation. No details. They didn't even return her notebook. They said it was classified. A few weeks later, Teresa received a small box in the mail. Inside was Lena's badge, a folded American flag, and a letter cold, full of formal words like valor and sacrifice. But not a single word about how she died, or where her body was. Teresa begged for information. She called field offices. She wrote letters to senators. She even drove to the last town Lena was stationed in and asked around, but no one would speak. Some didn't know anything. Others were told not to talk. It felt like Lena had never existed. But Teresa never gave up. She kept a photo of Lena on her fridge, and next to it, a sticky note that read, "Find out what they're hiding." In the DEA's cold case room, there's a metal evidence board. Old photos, maps, timelines, connected with red string and faded. Taped. At the center is Lena's file. Her photo is pinned right in the middle, a bright red circle around her face. Next to it, status, missing, not deceased, not confirmed care. Just missing. No body was ever found. No final location. No trace of where she went after that diner. The case file sits in a locked drawer. Only a few agents even remember it now. But for the people who do, the silence still speaks loud. Because when a trained D agent disappears without a trace, it means someone powerful wanted her gone and made sure she stayed that way. The D didn't call the media. They didn't send out alerts or press releases. Instead, they launched a quiet internal search. Only high-level agents knew what was going on. Lena's case wasn't even entered into the official missing persons database. Everything was done behind closed doors. Her handler briefed a small team. She's missing. No signs of violence. No digital trail. We need to find her fast, but quietly. The team was told not to talk. Not even to other agents. Their mission: retrace Lena's last steps without tipping off the cartel. Or the public. They went back to the gas station. They checked phone towers. They pulled traffic cams from roads near the diner. Nothing. Every angle was a dead end. They called it Operation Backtrack. For weeks, they chased leads across 3 counties. But Lena had vanished so cleanly, It didn't feel like a kidnapping, Dot. It felt controlled. And someone, maybe more than one person, was working hard to keep it that way. That's when the team realized they weren't just hunting for a missing agent. They were chasing a cover-up. Agents pulled Lena's files, everything. From the last 18 months. Her reports, her texts, her safe house logs. What they found was too perfect. Her reports were neat, detailed, and on time. Every phone call logged. Every route tracked. Every meeting documented, almost like she knew someone would be reading it later. But one thing stood out. The deeper she got into the case, the fewer names she wrote down. Near the end, her reports got vague. Met with source. Received update. No initials. No nicknames. No audio. The team wondered if Lena had stopped trusting the D, or maybe she knew someone on the inside wasn't clean. They tried tracing her contacts. Most burner phones were dead. 2 numbers had been disconnected the day after she vanished. 1 number couldn't be traced at all. It just stopped existing. Lena had been deep undercover. But someone else had been watching her, and they were cleaning up fast. Once they hit a wall, the D went loud. They raided stash houses, motels, and safe barns across the region. Dozens of arrests. They found weapons, drugs, fake documents, but no Lena. No sign she'd ever been in any of those places. Even the barn she was rumored to have visited the night she vanished was clean. Too clean. The floor was recently washed. Security cameras were disabled. Power had been cut the week before. One agent found what looked like duct tape under a floorboard, but it had no blood. No hair. No DNA. It was like someone had cleaned up just enough to stay ahead. They brought in dogs. Nothing. Forensics found tire marks leading into the woods, but not out. Maybe a decoy? Maybe a second vehicle? The deeper the D pushed, the more the trail fell apart. The cartel wasn't scared. They weren't. Hiding. It felt like they were mocking the agency. And it worked, because every door the DA kicked in led to nothing. The most confusing part came next. Informants. Lena had built strong ties with at least 5 key sources, people who'd given her solid intel before. The D brought each one in. They asked them straight up, "Do you know her?" Every single one said no. Not "I can't talk." Not "I'm scared." Just no, like she never existed. One agent later said, "They looked me dead in the eyes. Calm, like they'd rehearsed it." Even the bar owner who let her use his back room for meetings said he'd never seen her before. They checked financials. No one explained deposits. No signs of pressure. Either they were terrified to talk, or someone had wiped Lena clean from there. Lives. One agent suggested hypnosis or memory drugs. Others laughed it off. But it didn't explain how every person connected to Lena suddenly forgot her. It was like she'd been erased. Not just physically, but on purpose. And no one knew who had that kind of power. It was early morning on the Fletcher farm. The sun had just come up. The grass was still wet from last night's storm. 13-year-old Wyatt Fletcher pulled on his boots and headed out to check the cattle. It was part of his routine. Feed the cows. Count the calves. Look for damage from the wind. He had done this 100 times before, but this morning felt different. The air smelled muddy. The dirt was soft under his feet. The fences looked bent in places. As he walked along the back pasture, Wyatt noticed a few fence posts had fallen near the edge of a deep gully, a steep ditch that cut across the far end of their land. He stepped carefully along the ridge, holding on to the wooden post as he leaned over. That's when he saw it. Something was tangled near the bottom. It wasn't a tree branch. It wasn't trash. It looked like a piece of clothing. A jacket, maybe, covered in mud. And it was sticking halfway out of the ground. Wyatt climbed down slowly, gripping the roots as he slid into the gully. He crouched beside the object, trying to get a better look. It was a jacket. Dark green, heavy duty. The kind someone might wear for work, but it wasn't just tossed there. It was buried. Only part of the sleeve stuck out. The rest was packed under the dirt, like someone had tried to hide it. Wyatt leaned closer. He saw something shiny just beneath the mud. Maybe a zipper or a button. His heart was beating fast now. He reached forward, grabbed the edge of the fabric, and gave it a gentle pull. It didn't budge. He pulled harder. Still stuck. That's when he noticed something else nearby. Something gray and round, barely poking through the soil. It looked like a bone. Small, curved, like part of a wrist. Wyatt froze. He backed up slowly. His hands were shaking. This wasn't just trash in the woods. Someone or something had been buried here. And it didn't look like an accident. Wyatt looked around. There was no one nearby. Just cows grazing far in the field and birds in the trees. He could have run. But he didn't. Instead, he dropped to his knees and started digging. He used his hands, scooping wet dirt to the side. The mud was thick and heavy from the storm. Bit by bit, more of the jacket came loose. Then, something else. A plastic bag, duct-taped, shut. It had holes chewed through it. Inside, he saw what looked like hair. Brown. Wyatt's face turned pale. He dug faster. Not sure why. Maybe to be sure it wasn't what he thought it was. But it was. The next thing he saw made his stomach twist. Fingers. Not bones. Real, rotting fingers. Covered in dirt and tape. Then the edge of a skull. It was a body. And it had been buried for a long time. He gasped and fell back, crawling out of the gully on his hands and knees. He didn't scream yet. He couldn't. His brain was still trying to catch up. But something told him this wasn't just a random death. This was a secret someone wanted buried forever. Wyatt stumbled back toward the house, running as fast as he could. He burst through the kitchen door, his face white, his hands shaking. "Dad, there's a body in the ditch." His father thought he was joking, until he saw Wyatt's face. They drove the tractor out together. Wyatt showed him the spot. His dad took one look and told him to stay back. He climbed into the ditch and carefully brushed away some of the dirt near the jacket. That's when he found it, a small metal badge, rusted, dirty, but still readable. 3 letters, worn but clear, colon D. Wyatt didn't know what that meant. But his dad did. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. His voice was calm, but tight. "There's a body on our land. A badge says D. You better send someone. Fast." Within 30 minutes, the whole field was taped off. Police. Crime scene. Vans. Men in black suits. Wyatt stood off to the side, watching them dig up the body he had found. He had no idea who it was, but soon the world would. Crime scene vans lined the field. Police sealed off the gully and brought in forensics. The body was badly decomposed. Bones, some tissue, and scraps of clothing. But what stunned them wasn't just the condition. It was the badge. The rusted DEA badge found next to the remains changed everything. The body was transported to a nearby lab. Prints were taken from what was left of the fingers. The clothing was bagged. The jacket was still zipped. The plastic bag that covered the head was preserved. Everyone in the lab was quiet. Tense. 2 days later, the fingerprint results came back. One match. One name. Lena Morales. The tech froze. He read the name again. Lena had been missing for 8 years. Most assumed she was dead, but there had never been proof. No body. No scene. Until now, when the lead investigator told his team. No one spoke for a full minute. She had finally been found. But the real shock was where she was found, and what had been ignored all those years ago. As police traced the exact burial location, something jumped out. the gully where Lena had been found. It was just 5 miles from an old barn, one the DEA had raided back in 2017. That barn was part of the original investigation into the cartel Lena had infiltrated. It had come up on a tip just days after she vanished. At the time, agents believed it was a dead end. The place was clean. Nothing connected it to Lena Dodd, so they moved on. Now, 8 years later, that barn looked very different. Investigators pulled old case files, drone photos, and GPS logs from the original raid. A single image showed a muddy path that led away from the barn into the woods. No one had followed it back then. They thought it was nothing, but that path led straight to the gully. Straight to where Lena had been buried. She'd been right there the whole time, hidden, forgotten, and someone had made sure no one would ever think to look that far, until a 13-year-old kid found the truth. When the news broke, it spread fast. DEA agent Lena Morales found dead on a cattle farm in Tennessee. The headlines were everywhere. Agent Missing's 2017. Finally found. Cartel silence, federal shame. Buried with her badge. Photos of Lena flooded the internet. Smiling in uniform. Walking with agents. Sitting in courtrooms. Her story was suddenly national again. But one person didn't care about the headlines. Her mother. When investigators confirmed the body, they called Teresa Morales. She had waited 8 years for that call, but the moment it came, she collapsed. Neighbors rushed over. Paramedics were called. She didn't speak for 2 days. Then, when she finally did, she said only 5 words. They let her die alone. The public demanded answers. Who killed her? Why wasn't she found sooner? What had the DEA done or failed to do? But the agency gave no new comments. No press briefings. Just silence. Again. Exactly like the first time. Drone footage of the gully played on every major news channel. The area was remote. Thick woods. No homes for miles. One reporter said. She disappeared in one county, but she was buried in another. That detail changed everything. Lena was last seen near a diner off Highway 16 in Caldwell County, but her body was found across the line in Turner County, a different jurisdiction. Different investigators. No overlap in the case. No reason for those two areas to connect. Unless someone planned it that way. Back in 2017, Turner County wasn't even alerted about Lena's disappearance. Caldwell led the search. So this area, the gully, the barn path, the deep woods, was never touched. It was a perfect blind spot. Whoever buried her knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't just want Lena dead. They wanted her lost, and for 8 years, it worked. But now, the questions were louder than ever, because no one ends up in a ditch 5 miles from a DEA raid by accident. After Lena's body was identified, the DEA reopened her case. One junior agent noticed something strange in her file. A locked section labeled Clearance Restricted Level 9. Most DEA agents couldn't access it, but with the case now active again, a supervisor approved the request. Inside that folder, they found something no one expected. Lena hadn't just been working undercover. She was part of a special unit called Shadow Division. It wasn't listed in the official DEA org chart. No roster, no budget, no mission details, but there were 6 agents linked to the group. 2 were dead. 3 were missing. Only one had a recent file. Lena Morales. Her mission was listed as Deep Contact Infiltration with Cartel-Linked Law Enforcement. No time limit. No oversight. That meant Lena had been operating alone. No check-ins. No required logs. The kind of assignment where, if something went wrong, no one would admit she was even there. Lena wasn't just forgotten. She was designed to be. 2 days after Lena's remains were found, local police searched her old apartment again, just in case. behind a loose panel in the closet wall. They found a small lockbox. Inside was a cheap flip phone, powered off. Battery removed. The DEA took it immediately. It was a burner phone, not linked to her official cover ID, and not listed in her mission files. When digital forensics unlocked it, they found something shocking. The phone had encrypted text messages saved inside, names, payment amounts, GPS pins. Some messages were voice memos, short clips of Lena whispering into the mic, describing people and places she didn't trust. One message stood out. Lena said, "If something happens to me, start with the sheriff's office." The names in the phone didn't match any official case logs. One was a deputy in a small rural town. Another was a lawyer who'd been disbarred years ago. Whatever Lena was doing, it wasn't just cartel tracking. She was following people the D hadn't even flagged, and someone clearly didn't want that phone found. As the messages were decoded, the picture became clearer. Lena wasn't just tracking the cartel. She had found signs that local law enforcement, including at least one sheriff's office, was helping move drugs. Not turning a blind eye, actually protecting the shipments. One name showed up again and again: Sheriff Roy Keller, a well-liked man in a quiet town 3 hours from where Lena was last seen. He had no criminal record, no complaints, but Lena's notes showed something else. She had tracked cash drop-offs to one of his rental properties. She listed 2 shell companies tied to his family, and she had started following the flow of money. Cartel payouts funneled into fake construction projects and grant funds. Lena was close. Too close. One memo said, "May need extraction soon." "They're watching." Then, nothing. That's when her messages stopped. Her burial site? Less than 20 miles from Keller's county line. And somehow, that connection had never been made. Until now. Agents went back through Lena's internal message logs. Each agent had to submit weekly encrypted updates. Lena had sent 9 in her last 6 weeks. Every one of them had a warning. They weren't long, just short notes like, "Need backup soon." Following money trail. High risk. Request. Silent handoff. Every message was marked as reviewed by her handler, Agent Mark Estelle, but none of them were answered. Not one. No reply. No forwarding. No escalation. Dell had worked with Lena for 2 years. He knew how she operated. And still, he didn't act out when questioned. Dell said he believed Lena was being paranoid. He claimed she had gone off mission. But investigators noticed something else. Dell had recently applied for a job with a private security firm in the same county Lena had flagged. When asked about the connection, Dell lawyered up. The DI quietly put him on leave. To this day, he's never been charged. But the damage was done. Lena called for help, and he left her out there alone. Just when the case seemed stuck, a reporter uncovered something no one expected: security footage from a storage warehouse Lena had visited hours before she vanished. It came from a small camera mounted high in the rafters, facing the loading dock. The warehouse had long been shut down. Most believed it had no working cameras. Even the D missed it in 2017. But the camera had been wired to a private network, one the warehouse owner forgot about. The footage was short, grainy, time-stamped. July 18, 2017, 6:42 p.m. It showed Lena walking into the dock area. She was alone at first. Then someone else walked in. They spoke for almost 2 minutes. The second person's face was blurred, not by damage, but digitally masked. Someone had tried to hide their identity. Investigators ran enhancement tools. Nothing worked, but Lena's body language said everything. She looked tense, angry. Then she nodded, turned, and walked away. That was the last time she was seen alive on camera. And the person she met? Still unknown. The footage sparked a full timeline reconstruction. Investigators pieced together Lena's last 12 hours using GPS pings, message logs, and traffic data. One detail stood out. At 7:14 p.m., Lena's burner phone sent an emergency code, a signal only used when an agent is in danger. It should have triggered an alert to her handler within 60 seconds, but logs showed the alert wasn't read until 8:05 p.m., nearly an hour later. In that time, Lena had driven from the warehouse to a roadside diner, the same diner where she made her final call. By the time the D responded, her car had already been abandoned. A tech team reviewed the alert system. No crash, no malfunction. The code went through, which meant someone saw it and waited. Whether it was negligence or something worse, that delay gave her killers just enough time. Time to grab her, move her, bury her. One supervisor whispered during the internal review. She walked into a trap. And we let her. With everything pointing back to the old barn, the team pulled up the original CSI photos from the 2017 raid. At first glance, the photos looked routine. Hay bales, rusted tools, empty crates. But then one agent zoomed in on a support beam high in the rafters. Duct tape, wrapped around the wood. Clean, tight, and fresh. Not mentioned in the report. Another photo showed what looked like a smear of blood near the barn's far wall. It had been wiped, but not completely. The lighting made it hard to spot, but it was there. Again, no mention in the report. The team called in a former field tech who'd been on the raid. He admitted something they didn't expect. We were told not to collect. Just sweep and leave. Said the target had already moved. In other words, don't look too close. But now, knowing what they knew, that barn wasn't just part of the story. It was the crime scene, and someone had made sure the evidence stayed buried, just like Lena, inside a quiet federal office. A whiteboard tells the real story. It's filled with notes, redacted files, and names, some underlined, some crossed out, next to each. Dates, arrests, disappearances, and trails that went cold right after Lena vanished. There are photos of agents, deputies, business owners. And at the center, a printed photo of Lena Morales, circled in red. The team now believes her death wasn't a single mistake. It was the result of something much bigger, a network of corruption that spread through small towns, law enforcement, and even parts of the DEA. Lena had gotten too close. She had the names, the documents, the phone recordings. She was about to blow it all open, and someone at the top knew it. Instead of stopping the people involved, they erased her, silently, efficiently. Her notebook disappeared. Her case was closed. Her alerts ignored. Because the truth wasn't just ugly, it was dangerous. And in the end, the people who should have protected her chose to protect themselves. In every mission file, every report, one name kept showing up next to Lena's. Tom Renner. He was her direct supervisor, the one who gave her assignments, read her reports, and decided when she'd go in and when she'd come out. Tom wasn't just her boss. He was her mentor. He once called her the agency's rising star. They talked nearly every day. Texts, calls, field check-ins. Lena trusted him more than anyone in the D. In interviews with other agents, they said Lena saw Tom as a second father. He always had her back, or so she thought. When she got assigned to the Shadow Division, it was Tom who approved it. When the risks got higher, he told her she was the only one who could handle it. He told her she was close, that she was making history, and Lena believed him, even when things started to feel wrong, even when she wanted out. She trusted Tom, and that trust, more than anything, may have gotten her killed. In Lena's recovered burner phone, one text stood out more than the others. It was dated July 14th, 2017, 4 days before she vanished. She wrote, "This is getting too hot. I need out. Please request exit plan. The message was sent directly to Tom Renner. His reply came 10 minutes later. You're close. Just a little longer. Sit tight. It wasn't the first time she'd asked to come out. Another message from 3 weeks earlier read, They're watching me. I'm not sure who's safe anymore. And again, Tom replied with the same line. Stay the course. Agents now believe Lena had grown suspicious, not just of the cartel, but of people around her. People she had once trusted. But instead of pulling her out, Tom kept her in. He never logged her extraction request. He never flagged it with command. No one else saw the messages. Until years later, she was asking for help. And Tom told her to stay. Weeks after Lena's body was found, a reporter digging through land records uncovered something strange. Tom Renner's family, under a trust name, owned a small hunting cabin 7 miles from the Gully where Lena was buried. The property sat unused for years, tucked in the woods. No neighbors nearby. There was no mention of it in any deed disclosure forms. Tom never told investigators about it. Never mentioned it in 2017. Never offered it as a lead. When asked later, he said, I didn't think it was relevant. But it was. The road that led to Lena's burial site ran right past that cabin. One of the tire tracks found near her grave matched the kind used by older model SUVs, the same kind Tom drove. The connection wasn't proof, but it wasn't nothing. Either. Because Tom Renner, the man Lena trusted most, owned land just minutes from where she was found, and he never brought it up. Not once. The most damning evidence came from a grainy security camera mounted on a pole near an old livestock gate. The footage was dated July 20th, 2017, just 2 days after Lena vanished. The camera captured a dark SUV pulling up to a dirt road near the Gully at 6:17 a.m. It idled for 10 minutes, then turned around and drove off. License plate partially blocked, but the make, model, and window decals matched Tom Renner's unmarked D vehicle. When confronted with the footage years later, Tom said he didn't remember being there. He had no logged assignment in that county, no meetings, no calls. He never filed a travel report. He just showed up. For 10 minutes. 2 days after Lena disappeared, and never told anyone. Why? What was he doing there? He still won't say. And that silence, like so much else in this case, may be the only answer we ever get. After the security footage came to light, Internal Affairs had no choice. They called Tom Renner in for questioning. It wasn't an arrest, not even a formal hearing, just an interview behind closed doors. But from the start, Tom gave them nothing. He sat stiffly in the chair, calm, flat. Every question was met with short answers. Did you visit that location on July 20th? I don't recall. Why was your vehicle there? Could be coincidence? Did you ever receive an extraction request from Lena? I don't remember one. He didn't deny anything, but he didn't admit anything either. Agents pressed harder, but after 20 minutes, Tom leaned back, pulled out his phone and said, I'm calling my lawyer. That ended the interview. He stood, shook no hands, and walked out of the room. One agent later said, it felt like he was waiting for that moment, like he knew exactly how far he could go before walking away. And just like that, Tom Renner slipped through the cracks. 3 weeks later, a quiet memo hit the inboxes. Effective immediately, Agent Tom Renner has resigned. No farewell party, no retirement speech. No explanation. Just gone. His desk was cleared out overnight. His computer was wiped. His badge turned in without a word. Coworkers were stunned. He had spent over 20 years in the agency, led major operations, trained dozens of agents, but he left like he never existed. One agent emailed him asking if everything was okay. No reply. Another said she called straight to voicemail. There was no goodbye email. No thank you post on the agency bulletin. Just a missing name from the directory. Some thought it was guilt. Others said it was pressure from above, that the agency wanted to avoid a scandal. Whatever the reason, it felt wrong, because the man at the center of Lena's disappearance had just walked out the door. And taken the truth with him. In her living room, Teresa Morales has a wall covered in notes, maps, and photos. In the center, a single 8 by 10 photo of Tom Renner in uniform. It's not there for honor. It's there for answers. Teresa stares at it every morning. She keeps asking the same question. Why would a man she trusted do nothing? She's read the reports, the texts, the logs. She knows Lena asked for help. She knows the extraction requests were real. She's seen the ignored alerts. But what haunts her most is Tom's face in that photo. Calm, decorated, respected. She says, I don't care what he said in that room. I don't care if he retired. He knows more. I can feel it. She's written him letters. All returned. She's asked for a meeting. Denied. But she refuses to take the photo down. Because until she hears the truth from his mouth, she believes the case isn't over. Not for the D. And definitely not for her. It was July 18th, 2017. Just after 7 p.m., Lena Morales was inside her safe house, writing notes and uploading photos to her encrypted drive. She had just gotten off the phone with her handler. She sounded calm, confident, focused. Then, at 7:13 p.m., she sent one final message to a secure contact. I have a lead. I'll send the photos tonight after the meet. That was it. No name, no address, just the meet. No one knew where she was going or who she was planning to see. The message was flagged later by investigators, but at the time, it didn't raise alarms. To her team, it looked routine. Lena often met sources without backup, but the wording was unusual. She didn't say, maybe, or I think. She said, I have a lead. Something about that message felt final. Like she believed this was the moment everything came together. She was planning to send photos, but she never did. Because that meeting, wherever it was, would be the last thing she ever walked into. The number Lena had texted earlier that day was listed as Contact 93 in her burner phone. Investigators traced it back, hoping to ID the source she planned to meet. But what they found was nothing. The number was tied to a prepaid burner bought at a gas station 2 towns away. No name, paid in cash, no camera footage. The phone went active just 4 days before Lena's last message. In that time, it sent only 5 texts, all to Lena. Then, 10 minutes after Lena left her safe house, the number went dark. Never used again. No pings, no data. It was a ghost phone. One investigator said it was made for one thing, to bait her. And it worked. Whatever Lena believed, she was walking into a lead, a source, maybe even a whistleblower. Wasn't real. Or if it was, someone made sure it disappeared fast. The text trail ended cold. No names, no prints. Just 5 short texts. And then silence. Lena lived in a government-run safe house, a small apartment with a security system wired directly to the D. The entry camera faced the front door. It captured every movement in and out. At 9:47 p.m., that camera recorded its final clip of Lena. She steps out of her door, locks it behind her, and walks out of frame. She's carrying a folder, a shoulder bag, and her phone. There's no sign of panic. She doesn't look over her shoulder, doesn't rush. She's dressed casually, hair tied back. Calm. The camera feed kept running all night. But Lena never returned. Her door stayed locked. The security system never triggered again. When agents reviewed the footage days later, they froze that exact frame, 9:47 p.m. That was the last confirmed sighting of Lena Morales alive. No one met her at the door. No car was seen nearby. Just Lena, walking off into the night with full confidence, heading towards someone who had no intention of letting her come back. License plate readers tracked Lena's car just 22 minutes after she left the safe house. At 10:09 p.m. Her plate was scanned by a highway camera entering Turner County, a quiet, rural area filled with woods, barns, and back roads. There were no more scans after that. No exit record. No traffic cams. Nothing. The car simply disappeared. Turner County has dozens of roads, most unlit, many dirt or gravel. No cameras. No signal. Her GPS stopped pinging just after the last scan, like it was either turned off or blocked. Investigators believe she was either forced off the road or met someone at a planned spot. All signs pointed toward the old barn, the one tied to the original D raid. The location was remote, quiet, and less than 15 minutes from where her body was later found. She was lured in alone, with no backup and no eyes watching. From that moment on, Lena vanished. Whatever happened next, whoever she met made sure she never made it out of those woods. After tracing Lena's last GPS ping to Turner County, investigators focused on one place, the old barn. It had been searched before in 2017, but only briefly. This time, they brought in a forensic team. The moment they stepped inside, things felt off. The barn was empty, but too clean, like someone had cleared it carefully. Then a cadaver dog hit on a spot near the far wall. Agents pulled up the rotted floorboards. Underneath, they found something chilling. Blood. Small drops, almost invisible, but still there. Tests confirmed it was Lena's. In the rafters, behind a support beam, they found 2 zip ties, one broken, one still looped. Her DNA was on both. On the far wall, scuffed into the wood, was a faint shoe print. Not boot tread, but a sneaker. Women's size 7.5. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Lena had been held here. Not killed right away. Held. This wasn't a quick drop-off. They brought her here for a reason, and they wanted something from her. Before she died, when the body was recovered from the gully, it was badly decomposed, merely unrecognizable. But forensics told a clear story. There were signs of blunt force, trauma, injuries to the skull and ribs. Her wrist showed ligature marks, deep bruises from being restrained. But the cause of death was asphyxiation. She was suffocated, slowly. And there was one more detail. Defensive wounds. Lena had fought back. Skin cells were found under her fingernails. One finger was broken. Her knuckles were bruised. This wasn't an ambush. It was a fight, experts say. The injuries suggest she wasn't killed in panic, but over time, someone had time to hit her, tie her. Ask questions. Time to wait for her to talk. But she didn't. Single quotes to Lena had uncovered something big, and someone needed it to stay buried. When she refused to give it up, they made a choice. They didn't just want her gone. They wanted her erased. No body, no press, no questions. Just silence. And for nearly 8 years, that's exactly what they got. The final piece came from under her. Fingernails. Soil samples. Forensics matched them to a specific patch of land in Winfield County, more than 3 hours from the barn. That's where she'd been buried, deep in a gully behind a cattle fence, which meant someone transported her body across the state, through back roads, overnight. No cameras, no traffic stops, no signals. They chose a route with almost zero surveillance, and they didn't just dump her. They buried her with care, wrapped in plastic, duct-taped, hidden under 2 feet of soil and storm debris. Whoever did this had time, tools, and knowledge of the area. Winfield was rural, isolated, the perfect blind spot between jurisdictions. They knew how to move without being seen, and they didn't panic. They waited until night, until the roads were empty. Then they drove for hours to a place where no one would ever think to dig, until a 13-year-old boy walked that fence line 8 years later and stepped into the one secret they couldn't control. When investigators traced the gully where Alina's body was found, they ran into a dead end. The land wasn't owned by a family, not a farmer, not even the state. On paper, it belonged to a company called Cypress Pines, LLC. But there was a problem. Cypress Pines didn't exist anymore. It was dissolved in 2018, just 1 year after Lena vanished. No taxes were filed, no active address. The listed owner? A fake name, tied to a P.O. box in another state. There were no board members, no phone numbers. Just one registration line from 2015 that said, Landholding and Timber Preservation. The company had purchased the parcel 5 years before Lena disappeared, then shut down quietly after her body was likely buried there. To investigators, it looked like a shell. A fake company used to hide who really owned the land. Whoever used that spot knew what they were doing. No one was supposed to find it. And if Wyatt hadn't walked that fence line, they probably never would have. After matching soil and blood, investigators pulled tower pings from the night Lena disappeared. 2 phones lit up near the barn around 10:30 p.m. One belonged to a man named Diego Marquez, a known cartel enforcer, tied to the same network Lena was investigating. The other belonged to Deputy Rick Tanner, a local lawman who patrolled that exact county. Marquez was never arrested. He vanished weeks later, gone before anyone could question him. Tanner, on the other hand, kept working for another year. But after Lena's remains were found, he resigned suddenly and moved states. A witness came forward in 2023, claiming she saw Tanner and Marquez arguing behind a diner the same week Lena disappeared. She said they looked panicked. She never told anyone. She was scared. Investigators now believe these 2 men, one from the cartel, one from law enforcement, were the last people to see Lena alive. They had the motive, the access, the power to move without question. And the silence they left behind. It worked. For 8 years. The evidence wall is packed now. Photos, maps, timelines. Every line leads back to that night in July 2017. And every time someone asks how it went unsolved for so long, there's only one answer. It was built to stay hidden. The land? Fake company. The suspects? Gone. The agency? Quiet. No one talked. No one looked twice. And Lena? She became just a missing name on a shelf. Until one thing shattered all of it. A storm. A fence post. Washed out soil. And a boy named Wyatt Fletcher walking his cattle line like he did every morning. If the storm had shifted differently, if Wyatt had looked the other way, that gully would still be holding its secret. But fate didn't let that happen. Now, investigators look at the wall and whisper the same thing. We missed her. She was always right there. It was the perfect cover. Up. Clean, silent, invisible. For 8 years. It worked. And then a kid with muddy boots stepped into history. And nothing stayed buried after that. When Lena's story hit the news, it spread fast. TV anchors used words like cover-up, betrayal, and sacrifice. Photos of her, young, proud, in uniform, filled every screen. People were angry, not just because she was killed, but because no one had told the truth for 8 years. The media called her the ghost agent. Congress demanded hearings. The D held press conferences. But Lena's mom didn't care about any of that. She just wanted one thing: for people to say her daughter's name out loud. And finally, they did. Reporters, officials, even strangers. On the internet, they all said it. Lina Morales, not a number, not a case file. A person. An agent who gave everything. and was forgotten. Until now. 8 years after she vanished, Lena was finally laid to rest. Her mom, Teresa, planned a small funeral. No cameras, no press, just 12 people, a few family members, 2 retired agents, and Wyatt, the boy who found her. They met under gray skies on a quiet hill outside Nashville. Teresa stood beside a simple grave. No fancy coffin, no headstone yet. Just fresh dirt and a folded American flag. That flag was the same one they gave her back in 2017, when they assumed Lena was dead but had no proof. Now, they had proof, and it hurt worse than before. Teresa read a short letter Lena once wrote at age 14. "I want to help people who can't fight back." Then she placed the letter inside the coffin and whispered, "You did, baby." As the grave was filled, Wyatt stepped forward and dropped a small wildflower on the dirt. No one spoke after that. They just stood in silence. For the agent, they all failed. After Lena's story broke, 3 former DEA agents came forward. Each told a similar story. They had been sent on off-the-books missions, just like Lena. No records, no backup, no plan to bring them home. One said his handler disappeared after the mission failed. Another said he was told to shut up and move on after his partner died in the field. The third agent had notes, handwritten logs showing names and dates. One name appeared again, Tom Renner. These agents weren't looking for fame. They didn't speak on camera. They just wanted someone to know the truth. Lena wasn't the only one. There were others. Some survived, some didn't. But all of them had one thing in common. They were told to vanish quietly, so the agency didn't have to answer for what went wrong. And now, with Lena's story finally public, they weren't staying quiet anymore. Wyatt Fletcher is 14 now, but he still won't walk near the Gully. The place where he found Lena's body, buried under mud and roots, haunts him every night. He dreams of her eyes, even though he never saw her face. He wakes up sweating, sometimes crying. His parents tried therapy, tried taking him out of school. Nothing helps for long. He says he feels like he was never supposed to find her, that maybe someone is still watching. He's not afraid of the dark. He's afraid of silence because that's how it started. A normal day, a broken fence, just quiet. Then, everything changed. Now, every time it rains, he looks out the window and whispers, "Please don't let anything else come up." Wyatt is just a kid, but he carries a secret most adults would never survive. It happened 13 days after Lena's funeral. Just before midnight, a fire lit up the night sky in Turner County. It was the same barn investigators had searched, the one with Lena's blood under the floorboards. Neighbors called 911 when they saw flames shooting into the trees. But by the time firefighters arrived, it was gone. The roof collapsed. The walls caved in. Nothing left but ash and twisted nails. Investigators found signs of arson, gasoline residue, a broken lock, tire tracks leading away. But the barn was isolated. No security cams, no witnesses. The sheriff's office opened an investigation. No arrests were made. No one claimed responsibility. Some believed it was guilt, someone trying to erase their part in what happened. Others believed it was a warning, a final message to anyone still looking for answers. Either way, the barn that held Lena burned before it could tell the full story. And just like that, another piece of evidence disappeared into smoke. After the fire, the DEA did something unexpected. They reopened Lena's file, and not just hers. They pulled 5 more cold cases. Agents who vanished or were killed under strange circumstances. Each case had the same signs. No backup. Off-the-record missions. Missing reports. And each agent had filed a complaint right before they disappeared. Lena's case became a blueprint. Her texts, her GPS trail, Her ignored emergency alert. One senior investigator said her story showed us what to look for. The pattern was always there. We just didn't see it. The agency didn't admit fault. No press conference. No names given. But behind closed doors, task forces were assigned. Old supervisors were called in. And Lena's photo, the one that sat on a dusty evidence board for 8 years, was now pinned to the center of every whiteboard. She wasn't just a victim anymore. She was the spark, the one who forced the agency to look at its own darkness. And finally, do something about it. In a locked evidence room deep inside federal headquarters sits a single cardboard box. It's sealed tight. Red tape. Black stamp across the top. Classified, do not release. Inside are items pulled from Lena's apartment, her safe house, and her recovered bag. But also, things no one will talk about. Unlisted phone logs. Audio drives. A torn notebook filled with half-written names. Only a few agents are cleared to access it. And they won't. Speak. Not on record. Not even off. Because some secrets are meant to stay buried. The final voiceover comes in soft. We still don't know who killed her. Or why. Maybe we never will. Then a slow zoom on Lena's photo. Taped to the inside of the box. A date. A name. And nothing else. She found something. She said no. And for that, she was erased.